Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Belle again, and welcome to The Roads with Belle. Today is February 13th, and today is the roads to Trump's lawsuits. There are so many. We're going to try to detangle some of his legal entanglements. What we're going to do is break it down by executive order and talk about some of the cases that are pending, challenging each one. This is not an exhaustive list. We've cataloged somewhere around 60 lawsuits against the administration since he took office again. We're obviously not going over all of them, but we'll try to show at least one case in each order that's being challenged. So, buckle up. There's a lot of notes. His order disputing birthright citizenship is being challenged by more groups than we can count. The biggest one on this seems to be State of New Jersey v. Trump, filed in Massachusetts. It's brought by the Attorney Generals of 22 states and some other jurisdictions. Basically, the states are arguing a plain reading of the 14th Amendment as affirmed in Wong Kim Ark grants birthright citizenship. Next up, we have the reinstatement of Scheduled F for certain federal employees. This one is being challenged in at least 4 cases. For the most part, the cases are making similar arguments. One to watch is National Treasury Employees Union v. Donald J. Trump, filed in D.C. Basically, the argument is that Trump's plan violates a bunch of laws Congress passed to protect civil servants. Then we have suits challenging the mere existence of the Department of Government Efficiency. We think the one to watch here is called Lentini v. Department of Government Efficiency, filed in D.C. The argument here is that the order violates the Federal Advisory Committee Act. We know national security counselors is involved in that one, so we'll be keeping an eye on it. There's quite a few about the attempts to destroy USAID. Most of these have strong arguments, but our guess is that the American Federation of Government Employees v. Trump will be the one that goes the furthest, the fastest. On February 7th, the judge issued a temporary restraining order stopping the administration from putting USAID employees on administrative leave. They seem to get kind of close to blocking the funding freeze, but couldn't show they themselves were going to be harmed enough. His order setting out the punishment of sanctuary cities and states has at least 2 suits. The ones we're watching closely is City and County of San Francisco v. Donald J. Trump, filed in California. San Francisco is making a list of arguments against the order on this one. It includes everything from separation of powers to due process to spending clause. But the interesting one to me is that they're making a 10th Amendment argument about enumerated powers. We'll see how the states' rights judges rule on this one. Then, about the pause on grants and loans and so on. The big case here appears to be the National Council of Nonprofits v. Office of Management and Budget. This is one that already has traction. The argument is mainly focused on the Administrative Procedure Act. The judge here has already issued a TRO blocking the funding freeze. Trump's order on expedited removal is being challenged as well. This one is called Make the Road New York v. Huffman and is filed in D.C. It looks like the argument is that Trump's order is arbitrary and violates constitutional protections against wrongful removal. There's a suit dealing with an email system from the Office of Personnel Management. This case is Jane Doe's 1 through 2 v. Office of Personnel Management, filed in D.C. The judgment the argument, there is no judgment yet. The argument is that the system violates the E-Government Act of 2002. On the 6th of this month, the judge denied the TRO request. That's a temporary restraining order. Next up is about attempts to destroy the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. The suit is called National Treasury Employees Union versus Russell Vought. They're arguing that the attempt to stop enforcement is a violation of the laws that Congress passed creating the agency. Okay, then we have a ban on gender-affirming care. There are a couple of suits over this, and they're taking different routes. State of Washington v. Trump, however, is taking a 10th Amendment route, which means it will probably be more interesting to see the arguments over states' rights. Then we have a suit over the end of the CBP-1 app. This one is Las Americas Immigrant Advocacy Center v. U.S. Department of Homeland Security, filed in D.C. This is a bit of a weird one because it seems to stem from the suit where the Biden administration argued that the CBP-1 app was an avenue to claim asylum. The ban on trans soldiers is being challenged in at least 2 cases. They're both arguing violation of equal protection laws, and my guess is one of these is headed to the Supreme Court. Next up, we have a couple of suits about National Institutes of Health guidance dealing with grants and indirect costs. There's 2 suits over this, and the arguments center on the Administrative Procedures Act. But I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure which one is going to matter because I'm not really clear on what's happening. We have a case about the removal of a special counsel. This one is named Dillinger v. Besant in D.C. Special counsels have 5-year terms and can only be removed if they show inefficiency, neglect of duty, or malfeasance in office. The judge ordered a stay on the termination until tonight. It looks like while the parties prepare their briefs. There are at least half a dozen suits about disclosing personal and financial records to DOGE. Most of the arguments seem to center around privacy violations. Orders have already been entered in at least a couple of cases curtailing DOGE. I think State of New York v. Donald J. Trump is the one to watch here, and there's supposed to be a hearing on that one tomorrow. On to trans inmates. There's been a couple of cases on this so far. TROs have been entered in favor of the inmates in both of them. Sticking with trans issues for just a second, there's also Orr v. Trump, which is about passports, but hasn't had many developments yet. Next up is DOJ looking into FBI agents who investigated the 6th. This started as 2 cases, but if I understand the legal jargon correctly, they've been merged. I think it's currently named Federal Bureau of Investigation Agents Association v. Department of Justice, filed in D.C. The concern is that DOJ might publicly release identifying information about the personnel involved. The judge entered a mutually agreed TRO, barring that from happening. Next, we have a proclamation prohibiting non-citizens who arrive after a certain date from claiming asylum. That one is named Refugee and Immigrant Center for Education and Legal Services, v. NOME, filed in D.C. The argument here seems to be this is just all wrong and not how this law works. The plaintiffs want an injunction stopping implementation and declaration that it's unlawful. Okay, then we have one about the deferred resignation thing. This one is called American Federation of Government Employees, AFL-CIO, v. Azell, and is in Massachusetts. It seems they're arguing the deadline directive violates the Administrative Procedure Act, APA, because it is arbitrary and capricious. There's already been movement on this one, and it looks like the deadline is stayed until after oral arguments. Up next is the result of Trump's gender executive order that led to information being removed from publicly accessible websites. I think there's a couple more on this one, but in Doctors for America v. Office of Personnel Management, the argument is that a policy memo violates the Administrative Procedures Act and the Paperwork Reduction Act. On the 11th, the judge put a TRO in place that restores the removed information from the web. Next up, we have one about the transfers to Guantanamo. This is Perez-Para v. Castro, filed in New Mexico. This case deals with 3 specific people who were worried about being transferred there. And it looks like a judge has entered a temporary restraining order blocking any potential transfer of them. There are a number of cases about the firing of employees in independent agencies that argue the president doesn't have the authority. I don't even know which one to pick as an example there. Okay, now, if you want to stay up to date on these cases without waiting for the next update from us, you can use something called courtlistener.com. It'll keep you up to date, and you can even set it up to give you alerts. So, there you go. A little more information, a little more context, and having the right information will make all the difference. Y'all have a good day.